All right, I want to talk about something different tonight. We're going to get away from sad shit. We're going to get away from politics. We're going to get away from, well, actually, there might be a little tinge of politics in here. We'll get to that in a couple of minutes. Today, I just got home from class. It is 7:44 in the evening here on Tuesday, January 27th. I just got home from class, and I have one thing that I want to do tonight. That is to catch a small buzz from a gummy, and I'm going to watch Wonder Man in its entirety. What is Wonder Man, you may ask? And I do not begrudge you not knowing the answer, because at the end of the day, over the course of the last couple of years, the MCU, or the Marvel Cinematic Universe, has kind of lost its luster a little bit. But Wonder Man is the newest Disney Plus TV show. It is based on a kind of tertiary character in Marvel Comics. I'm not going to get too much of the backstory in case you plan on watching the show. But just to say, he's kind of important going forward as it pertains to the events of another upcoming show, as well as some of the movies that they're getting ready to go into. So what I want to talk about is actually not that show at all, because I have no idea if it's going to be good. I know that the reviews are pretty positive. I know it's got a pretty decent score on Rotten Tomatoes, that the reviewers that I follow on social media, YouTube, et cetera, they seem to think it's a really good show. So I'm looking forward to watching it tonight. What I want to talk about, though, is what has happened to comic books as a entertainment medium outside of print, meaning all the comic booky stuff that's not comic books themselves, and how it's lost its way. And not only how it's lost its way, but also how society is being reflected back upon itself, and how society in that reflection is not happy about it, right? All right, so if we go back in time, it's almost 20 years, over 20 years now, to the start of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what began with, I guess, essentially Iron Man, and then has grown into the Avengers and TV shows and all that kind of stuff, right? Something like 85 hours of content or more, between TV shows and movies and all this kind of stuff. Somewhere along the line, and I was thinking about this today, somewhere along the line, they lost their way. And you're going to get people that will tell you that it's predominantly because they went woke, right? That's what everybody loves to blame on social media as the cause for backlash or ire against certain types of intellectual properties, right? They went woke, as it were. You go woke, you go broke, is what the expression is. And that is bullshit. That is not what happened to the MCU. The MCU did not shoot itself in the foot by being woke. There's a number of reasons why the quality of the content eroded for viewers. And I want to really emphasize that. It's subjective. Subjectively, the content has gone down. I would make the argument that objectively, the content has actually gotten better and better and better. So this started, I think, this is my philosophy on this, which is what this channel is all about. If you're coming to watch my shit, it's because you want to hear my thoughts on things. So what I think happened is when you go back to the original Iron Man movie and Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3 kind of went off the rails, but Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, the first Thor movie, the first Incredible Hulk movie, definitely the first Captain America movie, actually the first 3 Captain America movies. I know I'm missing something from back then. No, maybe that's it. Those movies, because like the second Thor movie, no. Iron Man 3, no. Yeah, so I guess those movies that I just named, those movies all had something very important in common. They presented comic book characters in a grounded way. And what I mean by a grounded way, not that they did what the Batman did, which was make a Batman that could actually exist in this world. I don't think that Iron Man could actually exist in this world. I don't think that Captain America could exist in this world. I certainly don't think Thor or the Hulk could exist in this world. I think Black Widow could. I think Hawkeye to a certain extent could. But those characters, they grounded them by establishing their phenomenon, their metaphysical or supernatural or scientific phenomenon. They grounded it in some semblance of science. And they made it feel like if certain things happened, yeah, these could exist in our world today, which is a departure wholesale departure from the content that you see in comic books. Comic books suspend disbelief from the start. You have to accept that the universe in which you are watching or reading in a comic book is supernatural. It is fantastical. All these things can happen. Space travel is a real thing. Civilizations throughout the galaxy, yada, 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 right? You have to accept those things. That's a greater part. The mutation of genes creating superpowers, right? Those are all aspects of the comic book universe, even the multiverse of the comic book universe. These are aspects that we accept because we have a contract. When we pick up a comic book, we have a contract with the writers of that comic book that, yes, I suspend disbelief. I will believe anything you send to me, and I will understand that in the confines of that world that you have created, the things that I'm seeing are possible. The mistake the MCU made is they first established their social contract, their cinematic contract with the viewers, under the established guise that we're going to set up a realistic idea, a realistic imagination or imagining of the Marvel Universe. These characters are going to be more grounded. It's as if the world that you live in right now suddenly had superheroes. That's the world that we're going to create. Sometime around the inception of Disney Plus and WandaVision, and then Moon Knight, and then the Hawkeye TV show, and then the reemergence of Kingpin in that show, and then that horrible spinoff that they had from that, and luckily I can't remember the name right now of that with the Native American woman. It's actually driving me nuts. I can't think of that. But anyway, regardless, those shows, and then ultimately what ended with Secret Invasion is they jumped the shark. They decided, the writers, maybe Kevin Feige, although I'm going to come back to that in a second. Maybe Kevin Feige, maybe others, decided wholesale, we are no longer going to have this grounded environment anymore. We are going to push you, and they use the guise of the multiverse to create this phenomenon in which, okay, nope, we're going to bring the comic book worlds to your world now. You're no longer in your grounded reality. We have now flipped a switch, and now you are suddenly just in the comic book world. And that didn't work. They lost their fan base. I swear to God, my dog does this every time I shoot a video. She makes that stupid noise with her harness. Anyway, off topic. So that was, I think, the mistake that they made. And then the multiverse just got weirder, and the characters that they've introduced have just gotten weirder. If you read comics, these are common characters. There's nothing wrong with Guardians of the Galaxy. They're great characters. There's nothing wrong with the Red Guardian and Yelena Belova and Bucky Barnes as a character. Like these characters have an established history and identity, and they are fan favorites oftentimes individually within the cinematic universe that Marvel's created, but their stories as a whole have lost that sense of this is happening in my world. And Sentry, the power set that Sentry had in Thunderbolts was never really fully explained. There's explanations in the comics, but they wasted the time. And then I like what they were doing with Fantastic Four, but again, they've lost the audience along the way. Now, can they get them back? Maybe. If you don't know the stories that are coming, if you're a casual Marvel fan and you don't understand what Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, which I guess is now going to be 2 movies, what the purpose of that is, the end game, right? Not what the story is going to be, because you're going to find out the story, and I don't want to spoil that for you. But the end game of all of this, and yes, this is a spoiler, but you're really living under a rock if you don't know this. They're going to reboot the whole universe. When we come back out of Secret Wars, what we're going to have is a cinematic universe nearly identical to the comic book worlds that we know and read every month if you're a comic book reader. So that's the Marvel problem. Now, I want to get back to the Kevin Feige thing that I mentioned real quick, and this video is starting to get long, so I'm going to try to burn through this. I do believe that during COVID, when Bob Iger stepped aside as active CEO of Disney and put Bob Chapek in charge, Bob Chapek is not a creative. Bob Chapek was a money guy. He was an actuarial guy. He was the one that was, he was chosen to run the company during COVID because they knew that they were going to see a retention in profits, a loss of revenue, and they figured that him being a bean counter would be the best case scenario to keep the company solvent and keep the company going, as it were. But instead of pulling the purse strings tight, What he did was he told Kevin Feige, create more content. Just pump as much shit out as you can. I don't want to delay. And I think there was one year, I think 2021 or 2022, they put out like 5 movies and like 10 TV shows or some nonsense like that. I'm probably exaggerating the number, but that saturation did not help their cause. Now, have they kept a cohesive story? Is everything still in one cinematic universe? Yeah, to a certain extent. And that's a monumental feat in and of itself. And that's why I'm saying I don't think that the erosion is in the quality of the content. I think the erosion is in the contract that Marvel made with the viewers. Now, as somebody who grew up reading comic books my entire life, I mean, although I was more of a DC fan, but as a comic book fan growing up, I love this. I cannot wait to watch Wonder Man tonight, especially knowing his backstory. I can't wait to see what they've done. I love Ben Kingsley's character. He's carrying over a character from the Iron Man series. I love that character he was in Shang-Chi. I love that character. So I think that they still can right the ship. I don't know how many viewers are left. I think the other problem that Marvel's facing right now is that there is an erosion of desire to step into movie theaters and be around people that have absolutely no social etiquette when it comes to watching movie in a cinema. I think the escalating cost of going to a cinema, especially for family films, if you have a family of 4 or 5, you're between popcorn, snacks, and movie tickets, you're in excess of $150 to go see a first run movie nowadays. And that's a hard thing to maintain, longevity wise. And then of course, the other side of that coin is the DC properties. And DC has been in limbo for a generation. They did very good in the animated market. The stuff that Bruce Timm did in the 1990s, kind of reinventing the DC comic book characters in animated form with Batman the Animated Show and Superman Animated Adventures, and then the Justice League shows, Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. Those were gold. And then they made some really good high quality movies coming out of that told comic book stories, whether it was The Killing Joke or The Dark Knight Returns, Red Sun. There were some fantastic stories that were done on the animated side. But the live action movies, specifically under Zack Snyder, were not my DC characters. I know there are a lot of people out there, John Campia from YouTube. He's a big time Henry Cavill fan and loved Man of Steel. Man of Steel was not a Superman movie. Man of Steel was an overpowered alien movie that just happened to be wearing a Superman outfit. That was not Superman. Ben Affleck was the best looking Batman we've ever had, but that was not Batman. That was not Bruce Wayne. And that's problematic. So now all of that stuff, whether it's, Batman versus Superman, Man of Steel, the horrible Flash movie, Aquaman, Wonder Woman 1984, which, oh my God, that movie was garbage. Aquaman 2, which I never watched. All of those movies are gone. They don't matter anymore. They have completely rebooted that universe. The only wild card still in the showing out there is the Batman. The newest Batman in movies that are out, the one that feature the Riddler, the vampire kid playing Batman. I forgot his name right now, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, that's all being rebooted. So if you've watched the new Superman movie, that was perfect. I know there's detractors out there. I know there are people that think the Henry Cavill Superman was more their Superman. Unfortunately, I think a lot of them are basement-dwelling incel boys that like their Ubermensch and want their really stoic, angry, overpowered Superman, and that's fine. If that's their incel wet dream, that's perfectly fine. You keep that to yourself. This hopeful, goody two-shoes Superman, this is my Superman. This is the Superman I grew up with. This is my Lois Lane. That was my Lex Luthor. They did a wonderful job with that. Supergirl seems to be perfect. I cannot wait. Jason Momoa as Lobo. Oh, chef's kiss. Perfect. And then we got a Lantern show coming soon. Green Lantern. Green Lantern is one of my favorite comic book characters, specifically Hal Jordan, but also Kyle Rayner. I'm not a real Jon Stewart fan. I know most people grew up with Jon Stewart as their Green Lantern, but give me Hal Jordan and hopefully eventually give me Kyle Rayner and I'll be happy as a pig in shit, right? So I think the direction that is going, and now it looks like Warner Brothers is going to dodge the Paramount purchase. If Netflix buys Warner Brothers, hopefully the the James Gunn universe will stay intact and we can continue to see stories. I think he's got an incredible vision. He did wonderful things with Guardians of the Galaxy before moving over to do the Suicide Squad and ultimately take over the DC universe. So I do think comic book movies are going in the right direction. I think there is a certain level of fatigue from tertiary fans that don't really care about this content, you know, that like they like the grounded flashiness of some of the early movies and the first couple of Avengers movies, but they've kind of soured on some of the fantastical stuff. And next, you know, for you people that love X-Men and Wolverine and all that kind of stuff, are some of the same people that decried the woke movement. X-Men's the ultimate woke, and now we're going to start getting comic book accurate X-Men in the next phase of Marvel. You guys, if you don't like social conscious storytelling and seeing bigotry and prejudice and stereotypes boiled to the surface and tyrannical governments and authoritarian takeovers and all that kind of stuff, if you're not one into Marxism, communism, and socialism and the way it battles capitalism, you are not going to like the new X-Men movies. I promise you that. So, you know, if you don't like them, just stay out of the way. Because those of us that grew up on comic books, the core fans here that will watch every piece of content that comes out, call me a fanboy. I don't give a shit. I like the content. Have I been a fan of everything that's come out from Marvel? Absolutely not. I hated Thor: Love and Thunder. I did not like the Black Widow movie. I really liked Thunderbolts. I really like Fantastic Four, but you know what? I haven't been able to watch it a second time. I've watched Superman, the new Superman, with David Cornsweet. I have watched that movie at least 25 times. I love that movie. But not everything Marvel's done has been great. You know, some of it's been just downright terrible. Whoever greenlit and produced Secret Invasion needs to never work in Hollywood again. So anyway, if you feel like commenting, let me know your thoughts. Where do you think Marvel and DC are going? Do you like the current course of action? Do you miss the old days? Do you think they're doing the right thing? I don't care. Let me know down in the comments below. Like and subscribe to my channel if you follow me on YouTube. Follow me on TikTok or Facebook if you follow me there. I am Christopher Hess. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you again tomorrow with another video. Hey, thanks again for watching the Christopher Hess Show. I'm really glad you took the time to watch. Now, if you liked what you saw, you can click right here. This will help you subscribe to my channel. Or you can click over here for a video that YouTube thinks is one you would like to watch. Once again, thanks for watching and have a great day.